And this is a game where coming prior to, their Rutgers' most recent game, I thought that this could be a really close one. And if Alabama overlooks Rutgers, it still may be. But now, looking at this game, I do think that Alabama has a very good chance of winning this game and potentially winning it, I won't say easily, but kind of going away. And it's Rutgers as a team centers around two guys, and that's Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, the two 5-star recruits that Rutgers got. We knew that was going to be the case, that those were going to be their go-to guys, that those were going to be the guys that you need to focus in on. But on Sunday, so yesterday, Rutgers went into Kennesaw State at Antoine Petway's house and lost. And they lost 79-77. And Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey combined for 35 shots. Dylan Harper has 21 points. Ace Bailey has 17 points. And Kennesaw State played team basketball and won the game. They absolutely destroyed them in rebounding. Rutgers goes with just 27 rebounds, just 8 offensive. And Kennesaw gets 46 rebounds, 14 offensive. Right, so they absolutely dominate them on the glass. And that was the name of the game, right? Kennesaw State turned over the ball 22 times. It doesn't matter if you get destroyed on the glass like that, right? And I think that's the reason why I would look for Alabama to win this game and potentially win it going away, is Rutgers got exposed at their inability to rebound the ball. Partially, this could be due to the fact that one of their best rebounders is now playing for Alabama in Cliff Amore. But I don't expect that they would be able to turn us over to get 14 steals like they did in that game against Kennesaw. And if you lose the rebounding battle to Alabama by 19, it's going to get ugly, right? I think that Kennesaw didn't quite have the guys to really break it open, and thus you had the turnovers, and the game was much closer than it should have been. But Kennesaw having that rebounding battle, Kennesaw was in the lead for the majority of the game. Kennesaw was, the better team, right? This was not a fluke game. This was a situation where they out-rebounded them, and they just played a better game. They shot 60% from 2. They played a better game, right? And so I think that when I look at Rutgers and how Alabama potentially would be able to win this game, there's a level of Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper are going to get some points, and you have to know that. And I'm not saying you just let them score, but you just don't let them have 40. Let them get their 18 points and shut down everybody else. Make it tough on them. Don't give them easy shots. But really more hone in on everyone else and don't let them, start getting hot and be able to facilitate. And I think you win this game. And honestly, I think you win this game going away. Rutgers has the 99th ranked offense, 71st ranked defense as it relates to KenPom currently. They play fairly fast on offense, which I think potentially plays into Alabama's skill set. In the Kennesaw State game, it got up to 79 possessions. So I think this is even one where Alabama's going to be able to get them up and running. And I think it's going to play right into Alabama's skill set. And I think that Alabama can, like I said, I think Alabama wins this game, and I think they win it going away. My prediction on this one would be Alabama 92, Rutgers 76. And 76 may be too much. I think that Alabama has the ability to shut down a team that really just has two guys. And I don't want to overstate, that by saying they don't have anyone else, because they have some role players. But when you look at Rutgers' schedule, they've only played one team inside the KenPom Top 160, and they lost, and that was Kennesaw State. Their next best team that they played was St. Peter's, who They only won by 10 points. And Rutgers has just not been as dominant as you need to be against lower level competition. And Alabama is going to be far and away the best team they've played to this point. We're going to have a set of playmakers where you're not going to be able to shut down one option, right? We just talked about that with Mark Sears scoring 0 points and Alabama still putting up 100. And I think that Rutgers is just not going to have the ability to do a ton outside of Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. And I think that Alabama is going to win the game and win the game comfortably. When you look at two freshmen that you're going to rely on and really you're relying on them to give you everything, it's just a recipe for disaster. And so I don't think it's going to be enough. I think that Alabama is going to be able to have a lot of success in that game. And like I said, I would expect Alabama to win by 15 to 17 points. And then as it relates to the rest of the Players Era tournament, I will throw up the bracket. But Alabama will play some version of either A&M, Creighton, Oregon, or San Diego State. I do not believe they can play Texas A&M due to the fact of how the MTE tournaments and conference games work. As it relates to Creighton, obviously I would rather not play them due to the fact that we will be playing them in Coleman Coliseum on the 14th. I would look to either play Oregon or San Diego State. Both Oregon and San Diego State are decent teams. Neither one of them are absolutely elite teams, but it's another, high major team that definitely can challenge Alabama in different ways. Oregon currently sits at 5-0 with a win over Oregon State. Is kind of their marquee win to this point. San Diego State sits at 2-1 with their loss being against Gonzaga at home by 13. So, both of these teams have really good things, have weaknesses. San Diego State, a much better defensive team than offensive team. Oregon, much more of a balanced team currently. Their offense and defense only being separated by about 10 spots. So I think that both teams can definitely challenge Alabama in different ways. I think that the biggest landmine Alabama has to face, obviously, is Houston in that first round. But I do think that if Alabama can beat Houston in round one, our ability to win the MTE is very likely, right? I think it's a very possible thing for Alabama to win the MTE. I will say there's some weirdness as it relates to the seeding and winning by a certain number of points in terms of tiebreakers. So we'll have to see how that ends up coming out because they seeded it very weirdly where Alabama could technically go 2-0 and so could Notre Dame. Certain teams can go 2-0 and still be. There can be two teams that are 2-0 and two teams that are 0-2 on each side of the bracket. That is going to require them to be a certain number of tiebreakers because it's not a true round robin in terms of the brackets. So it is a little weird how the tournament is set up. However, like I said, I do think that Alabama has a real chance to win this tournament, especially as it relates to our ability to win if we can get past Houston. But that is a huge if because Houston is a great team.